I got to hear about a guide dog puppy who had been in training but who had been diagnosed with a developmental hip issue. So the guide dog for the blind had asked if I'd be willing just to foster this dog for a couple of months. Luka then came to stay for his rehabilitation. I immediately fell in love with him and thought, how am I going to part with this dog? Luka wasn't allowed off the lead for at least 6 weeks. And we chose his off-lead moments, certainly in the early stages, very carefully. We'd had weeks and weeks and weeks of building his legs up, building his muscles up. And I suppose I was just petrified that I was going to let him off the lead and it was all going to go wrong within 5 minutes. And so I just let Luka off the lead and it was fine. And we just built up from there. He rehabilitated really well, but he was medically discharged from doing any further guide dog work, and he was going to go into the adoption queue. So guess who asked if they could be first in the queue for the adoption process? Luka does quite a lot of charity work. Luka's on the community day team for Dementia Dog, and he's what's known as an Alzheimer's befriender. He just intuitively gravitates towards people who might be in distress, even though they might not be showing it. And he seems to have an intuitive knowing of who needs to have his presence. For example, there was one day we were in the wards and there was a patient who, she had really been non-communicative for a couple of weeks. The nursing staff said that they'd had very little out of her. She was a wee frail, she was like a wee bird. And the nurse asked if I would take Luka over to her bed. Within about a minute, this patient turned and looked at Luka, and Luka just was gazing at her. And you could almost see her coming back into her body, and she turned and she smiled at Luka and started to rub his head, and then spoke to him about a dog that she had when she was a child. And he just stared at her and looked interested and moved his head from side to side the way that he does. And she and Luka had this interchange for about 10 or 15 minutes. And the nurse and I were just like looking at each other going, wow. And that's the power of what these dogs can bring into these situations. It's just awesome to witness. It's very humbling to witness. To people who haven't met him, I would say that Luka is just one of God's kind souls. He's a very giving dog, he's a very loving dog. I can't imagine life without Luka. He just makes the home. His energy and his joy and his happiness and the way that he just connects with me and everybody who comes here, he's just part of, he's knitted into the fabric of me and home.
If you could describe him in 3 words, what would they be?
My amazing boy. My name is Anne and I am a veterinary surgeon. Oh, there's so many things I love about my job. It's quite difficult to articulate one in particular. Over the generations, I'm now treating the grandchildren's dogs of the people whose dogs I first treated when I came here. And for me, that's been really exciting to be part of that long journey with them. I think the thing that vet practices could offer that would be most helpful to owners, they want their vet to feel empathic, they want their vet to understand what their animal means to them, and they also want their vet to understand that there may in fact be financial constraints with treatment, and they want understanding of that and guidance as to what they can do within the kind of resources that they have for their pet. I consider myself lucky, and I don't think there's many people that can actually say they love coming into their work every day. So I feel uniquely blessed in that particular experience.